I woke up in my local shopping mall in the middle of the night. There's this thing chasing me, but not necessarily. A chill down my spine roused me from the deep, dreamless sleep. I was sleeping on a hard, cold surface. I slowly opened my eyes and looked around in the dark. At first, my mind was completely blank. And then, a million questions passed through my head as my eyes adjusted to the dark, and I recognized the dark shopping mall that I was in. Dim lights were on in various places. They did a poor job of illuminating the mall. I looked down and realized I was sleeping on a bench in the middle of the mall. How did I get here? I tried to focus on the last thing I could remember. I was walking around the shopping mall. Wait, what was I there for? Yes, I was there to buy groceries. No, I was going to buy clothes. I shook my head in an attempt to clear my thoughts. I was walking around the shopping mall. There was this lady, or was it a man? They were wearing a black coat? No, it was a blue jacket. Every time I tried to replay my previous memories, they seemed to dissolve into other memories until I wasn't certain of anything. The only thing that remained consistent was the memory of me walking into the shopping mall. I got off of the bench and decided to forget about how I got here and move my focus on getting out of here and going home. My parents must be getting worried for me. What is the time? I instinctively reached into my pocket as my mind started to wander again. My heart skipped a beat. My fingers searched for the familiar smooth surface of my phone in my pocket, but I could not find it. I frantically searched my other pocket and realized that my phone was not with me. Fear seemed to flow in my veins like a strong drug as I realized that I could no longer call for help. Anxious thoughts clouded my mind until I could no longer form any coherent thoughts. The panic and gravity of my situation had set in fully. I need to get out of here. It's just a mall. I just have to go to the nearest exit. I walked around and tried to get my bearings. I visited this mall frequently and knew the place like the back of my hand, but in the dark, this place was completely different. The absence of the usual cacophony of people's noises made this place seem liminal, let alone knowing where the nearest exit was. I struggled to even figure out which floor I was on. Perhaps what made this worse was the absence of my phone, which I could have used to call for help or even as a flashlight to navigate. I suddenly recognized the big cinema entrance in front of me as I walked towards it. Everything started to click in my head, and I realized I was on the third floor. My memory of how I got here started to clear up. I was coming out of the cinemas with my friends. We had just finished watching. What had we watched? I wasn't even sure if the sudden flashback I got was true. For all I know, it could have been a memory from the past. I've been to the cinema multiple times. Discounts come as a perk for the residents of my town. The cinema had a fire escape that led directly outside. This was the closest exit to me, and the next closest one would involve navigating down a couple of escalators to get to the ground floor. In the dark, this task would be nearly impossible. I walked into the cinema. The whole place was unsettling in a way that I could not place. The lighting was bright enough to allow me to see the outlines of objects, but was too dim to make out any details. My gut instincts urged me to run out of there, but I continued in hope of getting out through the fire escape. I walked past the reception. My feet made soft thuds against the carpet. Past the reception was a hallway leading to various. My heart raced inside of my chest, and I could swear my heartbeats were echoing around the space. I walked down the hallway, despite every part of my body telling me not to. It was dead silent. Every one of my steps were amplified. I walked down the hallway and past the double doors leading to each theater room. I quickened my pace to a jog. My mind was brimming with an unsettling feeling. A figure walked past me. I froze and whipped my head around. There was nothing. I was just being paranoid. I resumed my walk. In the back of my head, a new thought arose. I thought I desperately wanted to ignore her, but as I walked down the hallway, it became more and more apparent. I should have been at the end of the hallway by now. It was taking too long. I broke into a full sprint. The double doors blurred at my sides as I ran in desperation of reaching the end of the hallway. I ran past a figure. The sudden intrusion made me trip and fall flat on the floor. As soon as my palms touched the floor, I felt them get coated in a liquid. Instinctively, I pulled my hands away from the mysterious liquid. Why was there water on the floor? As I got up and looked behind me, I was face to face with a figure that I had passed. The figure had a smooth face with no features except for large white eyes. They were large, comically large, and so white they had a glow. They were bloodshot with thin red veins running all through the eye. The pupils were small, almost the size of a pinhead, and were pitch black. I fell backwards and let out a yelp. The creature stayed completely still. Adrenaline soared through my veins as I scrambled to my feet and started running away from the creature. I continued to stay frozen in the same place. Those horrible eyes followed me as I ran further and further away. I stopped to catch my breath when I ran a safe distance away from the creature. The hallway had still not come to an end, and it only seemed to be getting darker and darker. I kept on seeing a turn in the hallway further ahead, but no matter how far I walked, it seemed to stay the same distance away from me, like it was just a mirage in the desert. Just a mirage, a flicker of hope, a pond of water in a dry desert. I looked away and headed for one of the double doors leading to the theaters. As soon as I opened the doors, a blinding white light nearly fried my eyes. I used my hand to shield my eyes and waited for them to adjust to the new lighting after having been in the dark for so long. The theater screen was showing me walking around the mall, and then suddenly the screen darkened and transitioned into me walking through the mall in the dark. It showed me the entire journey up until the point at which I walked into the theater room, and to my surprise the film did not stop. In fact, it continued, playing into the future. I would continue watching the film for a while before I would walk to the front of the theater and reach the doors marked with green exit signs. There, I would face the same creature halfway through the exit hallway. The creature would reach out to me with the deep black tentacles and would crush me with them. I whimpered in horror as I watched the graphic video of me getting impaled by those horrible black tentacles. The screen turned to black and turned off after the video ended. I stood there in inexplicable horror, still staring at the screen that foretold the future like some sick fortune teller. I looked beside the massive theater screen and saw the door marked with the green exit signs. I had three choices: exit door, stay, or back to hallway. Out of the three, I struggled to pick one. As I stood there, I started to hear the eerie creak of the exit door slowly opening. I stared at the door as the creature came out of it and looked directly at me with those large white bloodshot eyes. I quickly turned around and ran back into the hallway, but this time, something was different. I cried tears of relief when I saw the hallway had come to an end and the fire escape door was right there. I walked out of the fire escape door and suddenly, the sunlight outside seared my retinas after having spent so long in the dark. I took my eyes quite a bit to adjust to the daylight, and then it hit me. It wasn't nighttime at all. The mall should be open. I stepped back inside the mall through the fire escape and saw lots of people walking around in and out of the theater rooms. Walking out of the cinema, the whole mall was empty. In dark moments before I left, it was now full with the usual bustle of shoppers. My phone was on the same bench as the one I had woken up on. If you like this story, be sure to check out more stories by Not Necessarily on Reddit linked in the description below. As always, sleep tight and stay terrified.